Hello and welcome back to Toast and Strawberry Jam. Today I'm going to do my March wrap-up. So I actually did quite well last month. I'm very pleased with the number of books I got read. I read 11 books, or finished 11 books. Some of the books I'd already started before the month started, but because I read the majority of them or finished them in March, I'm counting them in this wrap-up. So the first book I read this month, and it feels like such a long time ago, is The Watcher in the Shadows by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. This book was great. I'm trying to remember things about it. I really loved it. It was quite a quick read. It's not very long, and the story is very gripping, quite fast-paced once you start to get into the creepier bits. It was really fantastic. I really love his style of writing. I've not read anything by him before, but I do intend on picking up a couple of his other books and see if I like those as well. But I would definitely recommend this to anyone who likes kind of creepy, eerie type stories. And I would give this probably about 4 out of 5 stars. I think that's what I gave it on Goodreads. I can see. I actually gave it 5 stars, so there we go. Like I say, it's been a little while since I read it, it's been like a whole month, so I can't remember exactly my feelings on the book, but I remember now, I think I would probably read it again. It was very interesting, very exciting book, so check it out. Next, I read We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. I got that on my Kindle. That was my challenge book for last month, was to read an award-winning novel, so I picked We Were Liars. And it was fantastic. I was expecting to, for it to be slow. I not really, or I don't consider myself to be into kind of contemporary novels, and I thought, I expected that it was just going to be romance and just things like that I'm not really into on its own. Romance within fantasy, that's fine, but I don't pick up a book to read that is just romance. But it's not, that's not what the book is about at all. I read nothing about it before I started it, and I'm so glad that I just went in with no expectations or no understanding of what the book was about, because it was fantastic. And there's the twist, and it's just, if you've not read it, read it. It's so cleverly done, and I do intend to read it again and see if I can pick up any of the hints towards the ending throughout the book. So I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars because it really surprised me. Like I say, I was expecting it to just be some kind of chick flick kind of book, but it really wasn't. And there is romance in it, but it's not the main part of the story. And it was really fantastic. If you've not read it, I really do recommend that you pick it up. The next book I read was Say Brielle by Garth Nix, and this book, I really enjoyed this one as well. I've been really lucky this month. I've enjoyed all of the books that I've picked up. This is the first in a trilogy, and I really like it. It's quite sort of, I don't know if it's high fantasy, but it's, in a different world. It's not just kind of fantasy elements within our world. So there's a whole different world, and there's magic, and there is romance, and there is adventure. I think there's something for everyone in here. I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I think that's because it took me a little while to really get into it. So the beginning, because it's a trilogy, they're kind of the writer's kind of setting the scene a little bit for what's going on, and there's some backstory on the main character to fill you in on, and sometimes I can find that kind of thing can take a little bit of getting into, but then once the story really gets rolling, it's really excellent, and I really enjoyed it. I'm currently reading the second one in this series, and I do intend on finishing the whole trilogy by the end of the month to fulfill my April TBR challenge. But this, again, really great, really love the writing style. Would definitely recommend it if you haven't picked it up already. The next 2 books were quite short books. I read The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson, and I read The Tales of Beadle the Bard by J.K. Rowling. Jekyll Hyde is a book I've been meaning to pick up for a very long time and just never got around to picking up, so I've forced myself to read it this month. As part of my sort of challenge to myself to read a classic every month, I thought I'd start off with quite a short one. I really, really, really enjoyed it. It is it is a classic, so the language is not like very modern, so that does take a little bit of sort of getting your head around, or it did for me at least. But once you sort of get into it, it's really good. It's a classic story. I think everybody probably knows the basic gist of it, but I still think it's really worth reading the story like as it was written, because it's really good. It's really enjoyable. And Tales of Beedle the Bard, again, it's a great book. Like, I love little sort of short stories. It was perfect to just have by my bed, and I could just pick it up and read it. The only thing that I didn't really like about this book was the notes from Dumbledore. It just felt too fake. Like, I would have just quite enjoyed to have a book of like wizard short stories, you know, fairy tales that wizard children were told when they were little. I didn't need the Dumbledore notes. It didn't add anything for me. Like, I can see that maybe as a second book, like you do like the book with all the stories in, and then you maybe release a second book with the Dumbledore notes. I don't know, but I just didn't need the Dumbledore's notes. So I did read all of the notes, but it was like, that's what really slowed me down with this book. Like, it's not a very long book, but the notes really just, I would sort of pick up the book and think, should I read a story? And it's like, well, I don't really want to read Dumbledore's notes on it right now, but I want to read one of the stories, and I don't want to have to read Dumbledore's notes next time I come to the book. So the stories are very good. My favourite is The Three Brothers. I really, really like that one. But yeah, sorry Dumbledore, your notes weren't that great. R.I.P. Then I listened to 2 audiobooks. I finished listening to Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and that book is great. Really, really enjoyed it. It's read by Neil Gaiman himself, so that really adds something, I think. I listened to it on the bus, so it's taken me quite a long time to finish it, but towards the end I was just like, I want to finish this book. I really want to just like find out what happens, get it all sorted, and I wasn't disappointed. It was really, really nice. And I like the fact that I feel like at the end you can kind of make your own decisions about the actual outcome. So if you've not read it, do check it out. I love Neil Gaiman. He's one of my favourite authors. I've read a couple of books by him, and he's just always going to be one of my favourites, I think. So do check that one out. I think I gave that one 5 out of 5 stars. It's quite hard to review it now because, like I say, it did take me so long, so some of the sort of finer points I'm not quite so clear on, but it was really, really enjoyable. And the second audiobook that I listened to was Allegiant, which was the 3rd in the Divergent series by Veronica Roth. This one is read by 2 voice people. So the first 2 audiobooks are just read by Emma Galvin, but the second one they also have a voice for 4, and that actually really spoilt it for me the first time I tried to listen to it. I got the audiobook as soon as it came out, and I sat down and was ready to listen to it, and I put it on, started to enjoy it, and then as soon as 4 comes in, like for his chapters, and it was a different voice, it broke my immersion, because for so long I had heard 4's voice read by Emma Galvin, and it just really it just broke things for me. I was like, this isn't what he sounds like. So it took me a little while to kind of get over that, and I did put the book down for a very long time, but then recently I picked up again because Insurgent came out, the film came out, and I thought I really want to finish this trilogy. And I listened to them all, like I listened to the first 2 and really, really loved them, and really just wanted to like force myself to like the final book, and I did. I'm really, really glad that I listened to it. I got over the fact that 4's voice was different within the first few chapters, and then was able to just really, really enjoy the story. I know there's kind of like mixed feelings about the final book. Personally, I really, really liked the final book. I liked it just as much as any of the others. I can see why maybe people were not 100% happy with it, but personally, me, I loved it. So if you're still on the fence about whether or not you want to read it, whether or not it will spoil the whole trilogy for you, I would give it a go, because I think that it's part of the story, and I don't think you can be annoyed. Next, I read Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. This is a series that I have been interested in for a while, and when I saw the trailer for the film a couple of years ago, I was really intrigued, and so finally I got around to picking up the first book in the series. I think there's 5 books in the first series, and it is excellent. I got this one and like 2 other books in a kind of 3 for £10 type thing, and I think I'm about to have a package delivered, which is really embarrassing, so I'm like holding a book up in my living room. So I got the first book in a 3 for £10 deal on Amazon, because I thought I will get a couple of different books, see if I like them. I didn't want to buy the whole series and then not like it, but I really, really loved it, and I have picked up the next 3 books in the series, and I'm not sure, but I don't think that the final one, I don't think the paperback is the same, or at least the one that I have seen on Amazon, I don't think that the paperback cover is the same, so I'm going to have to just look into that and make sure that I get the same cover, because I don't want a different cover, and I'm really tempted to get hardback, but then I'll have like 4 paperbacks and a hardback, and that would make me really unhappy. And the next 2 books I read were the first 2 books in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, Daughter of Smoke and Bone and Days of Blood and Starlight by Laini Taylor. These books, I'm in love with these books. The first one especially. So far, out of the 2 that I have read, the first one is my favourite, but that's like, there's nothing against the second book. Like, I loved the second book more than I have loved pretty much any other book ever, so the first one is just even better again. It's just so beautifully written, and the story is really interesting. I think it's quite a unique story in some ways, like the themes of it, and I love it. I want to read the first one again, but I want to finish the trilogy. So there is, the final one is Dreams of Gods and Monsters, and I don't know if it's just me not hearing about it. I haven't heard about this so much in the UK, so I know of this from watching American booktubers talk about them, because I've mentioned it to a couple of my friends and they haven't heard of it, and I've not seen it in shops, so I don't know whether it's just not as well known. I don't think I've seen any Laini Taylor books in the UK, so maybe she's just not as well known in the UK. But if you haven't heard of these books and you haven't read them, then pick them up, because they are really fantastic. I'm looking forward to finishing the trilogy and then probably just rereading the trilogy over and over again until I die. Probably not going to read any other books ever in my life, so I think this is just everything that I'll ever need. But if I do pick up other books, I'm definitely going to be picking up more of Laini Taylor's books, because I really love her writing style. If I could have given this like 100 million out of 5 stars on Goodreads, then I would have done. Sadly, I couldn't, so I had to give it 5 out of 5. But it makes me want to reconsider all of my other ratings, just so that I can set like the new standard. So it's like, yeah, I give like a lot of books 5 out of 5 stars, but now 5 out of 5 is reserved purely for books that can meet this standard, because I really, really love it. It's just amazing. Did I say that I like this series? I don't know if I did, but I love it, and the books are really beautiful as well. They're so pretty, and they just look so right. It's just so pretty. I love them. And the final book that I read in March, it was really like a race to the end to get it in there, was A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. I bought this while I was away in Bristol, and I don't know whether I was coming off the back of Days of Blood and Starlight, and if you didn't know, I really like that series, so the next book that I read was always gonna have to really live up to it, and this book really, really did. It's really, really excellent. Love the world that she's created, or the worlds that she's created. It's based in different parallel Londons. It's a really interesting concept, and it's the first in a trilogy, I think, or definitely the first in a series, but it could be a standalone book in itself, because she said, I read somewhere that she said that she doesn't like lots of loose ends, so she did tie up the story. So if you don't like trilogies, then you could read this on its own and still really, really enjoy it. I loved this book. It didn't take me very long to get through it. Like I say, I was coming off the back of a book that I really, really love, and so it was a little bit slow going in the beginning, but it's just so good. Definitely check it out. And I'm actually very excited because I won a signed copy of this as well. So I'll have 2 copies, which means I have one to lend out to all of the people that I have been saying you must read this book. So this is my lending out copy now, and hopefully my nice shiny new signed copy will arrive in the post soon. So I also gave this one 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, because obviously the new sort of magical Daughter of Smoke and Bone star has not yet been invented, but like, this is a really good book. I'm being serious now. These books are great. This book is also really, really fantastic. Check out this book if you haven't already, and I'm definitely going to be picking up some more of V.E. Schwab's books, or Victoria Schwab, which is her like young adult publishing name, whatever you want to call it. So check it out. Excellent. It's only been out for a couple of months, so it's still relatively new, so if you like to get in on like the new books and things like that, then this is definitely a good one to get into. That's it for my March wrap up. I read 11 books, which puts me well on my way to meeting my challenge for this year, which I have had to up from 25 to 50 because this month went so well that in order to meet my challenge, I think I would only have had to have read like 5 more books in the rest of the year in order to read 25 books this year. So I have upped it to 50, and I'm still, I think, 3 books ahead of that challenge, which is really good because already April is shaping up to not be such a good month for reading. I've just started playing World of Warcraft again, and I'm really obsessed with that, so reading time is minimal. And we've just started to watch The X-Files, so lots of other things are happening in my life right now. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!